Now the role has been changed. A conversational designer is just not designing the conversation; he's actually architecting the knowledge.
If you're in business for 200 years and you're an old school brand, then you don't now all of a sudden have to think that you need to be an AI company, but you will be using AI to talk to people and you need to figure out how you control that operation.
Many organizations that I know are laying the groundwork so well that building on top of that becomes so accelerated and so fast.
Yeah, and a lot of times we're solving problems that shouldn't exist in the first place. And we got 100 FAQs on this product. Can we automate those with a chatbot? It's like, no, you got to fix your product. If you got 100 FAQs about one product, we need to fix the product. Welcome to Unprompted, the conversation design series from Conversation Design Institute. I'm your host, Hans van Dam, and today we're joined by Divyanshu Jain, and that's a difficult name for me to pronounce. I'm really happy that I get to call him DJ. DJ is a seasoned AI and product leader who's led transformative programs at some of the world's most recognizable brands, including Verizon, PepsiCo, Victoria's Secret. And over the past decade, he's helped teams scale from small pilots to enterprise-wide deployments, delivering more than $70 million in AI-driven business impact. In this episode, we explore what it means to move from AI project delivery to AI product vision and what every team should know before jumping into GenAI or launching their next big assistant. It's great to have you here today with us, DJ. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Hans, for arranging this. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And we had to reschedule a few times, and I'm glad we made it happen now. And one question that's really been that I've been thinking about a lot, and keen to get your thoughts on it. So, what's something that you feel is true about AI that very few people understand from your perspective?
Oh, it's far easy to answer now because you see the jargon being thrown all over the LinkedIn now everywhere. Like LLM is, AI is LLM, LLM is AI, and AI is some magic wand. That's like a common thing, but very few understand it's not about AI. It's like where you place it, right? It's an intelligence layer. Like it's not the lever by itself, but it can drive or make the lever efficient to drive the numbers, move the needles. So basically, many people do not, think like closing the loop and actually getting it to do something by reasoning is the whole thing to be get successful. Recent study from MIT that quoted right 95% of those initiative is getting failed or not delivering value. I mean, if you dig deeper, it's not exactly AI challenge. It's how the organizations are adopting it, how they are working around it. So that's what it is.
So would you say that so technology might be more powerful, but it requires therefore more from the organization, where maybe it's not if you have a bad organization or not very efficient, the AI doesn't solve that problem. It actually requires more from that organization. Is that almost what you're
Uh,
saying there?
so it's like, we kind of need to change the lens that the way that we look at it. We are looking at it like a new fancy technology, like we used to look at, SAPs of the world or, Javas of the world. It's not like that. I mean, it's a complete evolution journey, right? So we started with the basic software with the core logic of simplifying what we do, or do it on a Excel sheet or do, on a regular basis. So we brought softwares, right? The ERP, CRMs and of the world. And then eventually those software brought automations, but that automation was not intelligent enough, right? It keep getting failed. So that's the next step, right? Where AI come into picture and it brought some sense of intelligence to navigate, to let that system navigate by itself and help actually delivering value. So that's more of like a evaluation than actually a cutoff uh, disruption. So if we
Hmm.
take it in this sense, we will be able to place it where it need to be and by the right lens, and we'll be able to deliver value.
Hmm. That's actually very interesting. So you need to understand what it is in order for it to work. And then if you kind of go at like looking for, whether delivering an AI project to building like a very scalable product practice, because I guess that
Yeah.
ties in with this. It's like, what are we doing exactly? What's the difference there? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it's also about, it's about many organizations are competing on the ground where it's not level, right? Every organization maturity is different, and their positioning is different, their goals are different, where they want to position it. Just because the AI coming into their strategy cannot change, right? It cannot be like a Simon piece which is kind of distracting them reaching their own goal. So first question they have to ask whether what are the levers that they have that can change the that can help that organization reaching to the strategic goal that they have next 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year. What are the levers for those? And can we use AI to actually influence those levers and skill those levers to work more efficiently and get that get that acceleration towards the goal faster? So it is a enabler rather than a standalone technology that can deliver on that. So that's an important piece that every organization has to realize. Look at themselves, where they are standing. Are they data ready? Are they compliance ready? What is the risk that they are taking? All these questions need to be asked before they even start building on AI. So those are the things that are missing. People feel, because XYZ organization is doing something, let's do something. Or we also do something, but it's not a level field. We have to figure that out where we are standing. We might be, or some organization might be on a much better place to execute these things where the size is small, the risk is lower. There are certain organizations which are known. So that's a tough question to be asked.
Yeah, because we would always say when when we would be asked to sort of look at what kind of conversational AI technology or vendor platform would work best, and one of the key things was always like, yeah, you might be a bank and you might be looking at a different bank, but actually bank A has 100 engineers and nobody focused on content management, and the other one has a lot of content people but very few development capability. Not It's not like one is necessarily better than the other, but it
100%.
it it just makes it influences decisions you're gonna make and what's gonna make you the most successful. So just understanding that yeah, isn't that true in life in general? Like knowing yourself is such an important element to make good decisions and get ahead. But I guess that's
You
kind of
got
what
it
you're saying.
right. Yes, it is.
That's really interesting. So when you then like walk into a new organization, let's say you show up for the first time, maybe like in PepsiCo, or like where do you like what does it look like? Where do you start? What do you do when you go into a new role?
So basically, when I started on this journey, I started almost a decade back, in AI, where it was not a buzzword. So it was more of like a stroke of luck or, alignment where I had to deal with a lot of data, do a lot of analysis, all the way from journey from basic BI to report analytics, and eventually data science, machine learning, and eventually AI. Right. So that's a journey. So I had that opportunity to work on the ground level, understand how the data quality impacts everything, how the reasoning happens. So make better sense of the decision that is there. Right. So the journey actually evolved from basic no, debugging the data to all the way from reporting, cloud migrations, and AIs of the world and generative AI eventually. So that's me, working, and it's always like multiple things when you are like working at the program level. So you're working with different spectrum of AI maturity, right? Certain capability requires a very basic thing, certain capability requires a pretty advanced thing. So you have to figure out the entire spectrum, to deliver on certain aspect of the organization's goal.
Yeah. Yes. So when we go back to what we just said, because it's kinda interesting actually, because I had a very simplified thing of, like, bank A might be content focused, bank B might be tech focused, but you're saying you might be in a tech-focused bank, but you might be working with different departments that are in a completely different paradigm still in terms of
Totally.
what they're doing. So these complexities and dynamics exists within one organization as well. And then I guess if you're at a brand like PepsiCo with so many different brands in so many different countries and so many different languages, there's not one entity that you're dealing with.
Yes,
So it's
yes, and different systems, different organization, different maturity level, different leadership visions. I mean, everything needs to be factored or to come to the conclusion that what is the organizational maturity is and where we are heading. What is the average velocity that we can target, and how many years it's gonna take for us to achieve certain velocity, right? So be it PepsiCo, the larger the organization, the bigger challenges are, but it's the fun also, right? Because the more diverse spectrum you deal with, the more robust solution that you deliver.
Yeah. No, because it's almost like if you have so many factors going into, say, it's like every consideration takes some of the spirit, kills some of the spirit and excitement. Or if you're dealing with so much complexity, it's like, why bother at all even, right? It's like, this is never gonna work. So, but maybe, that's too gloom. So if you then think about, I'm a leader at a big organization, and I hear AI, I hear headlines in the newspaper, I hear it seems like my competitors are putting out press releases every week and they're doing amazing things. So what should I be asking myself to kind of think about, I'm starting something with AI. What are really the questions that I need to consider so that I make sure that,
So,
I don't mess up my budgets?
no, fantastic question, right? So that is where I say, while we are looking at the competitive, take a step back, all right? Look at the overall organization strategy, right? How they want to be positioned. Or do they want to be positioned as a tech first company, or do they want to position as a luxurious brand? What are their key purpose, or key mission statements tell, right? Stick to those, right? And if that mission statement or key or purpose are well structured and putting them to the path of growth, how fast they want to grow, right? These are the, I know these are not AI related questions, but these are the questions every organization, every member from the organization should be asking. First, we ask this question. Then we ask that, okay, what are the levers that I can use, right? Is it a customer experience, or it's operational efficiency, or it's something, newness in the brand, what are the levers that I can use to reach there? Now, once I recognize the levers, then I come to the question that how technology can help me, make these lever efficient and more optimized, right? Now, within that technology, how AI fit into picture, right? Can AI generate me at least 3x ROI, whatever I'm investing right now? So these are the four or five whys that every organization, every leader in the organization should be asking themselves before they even, go beyond shiny, pilot. And that
Mm.
is happening a lot because it's not like pilots are free or POCs are free, because we start with that notion. But what happens? We end up in spending a whole lot of time and getting into that tangled and set the expectation across vendors, which is, some way, if there is no ROI out of part of that, then that the homework that somebody need to do, or as a group team need to do before even starting that pilot. So that a team within the organization, especially the bigger organization, do not get distracted and randomly go somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, we as you're talking now, we used to show a chart a lot of how these conversational AI projects usually happen, where there's somebody that builds something and it was almost as an experiment, and then it shows some value and gets a little smarter, and then more people get excited. So you got different project in the organization, and then at one point, somebody with more of a business brain that's higher up in the org says like, yo, this is okay. We're all seeing the value, but now it's time to sort of build one capability and really think this through and have a solid strategy. And that's kind of like you need that period of kind of POC exploring to sort of get to the point where you say, okay, now we need to get organized. But then sometimes it's too late because some of those singular projects have maybe gotten too successful,
He got
or
that point, yes.
yeah, or
Yeah.
they're their entire career is now based on that little thing, and then it feels like group is taking that away.
Yeah.
It's like, can you speak a little bit to what that dynamic
Yeah,
has been
I'll
like
tell
for you?
you, this thing, right? POCs, pilots, or a project done out of the strategy, or not falling into the strategy, or not being thought through part of the strategy. Majority of them not have a much of a return. Even they show some return in a short term, but in a longer term, if they are not getting part of strategy, you have to redo that project process again. Then the whole question of ROI gets tossed, right? So
Mhm.
the foundational question still need to be asked, and it still need to be asked first before you even get into that. So it's better to ask that question of organizational maturity and the strategy and the alignment and the goals first, so that and any organization do not have to do this rework again and again, because it was built out of the strategy, because it might be built on a different tech stack, different platform, different team, or different goals, right, which is not falling on the big scale, or on the
Yeah.
big fabric of the entire organization. So it has to be redone. Then if you ask hard question that, okay, we were thinking of this project like, say, $100,000, right, and now it is going to cost you twice, then what is the ROI around it when this value will be realized? And I mean, there is a whole game of realizing ROI or even calculating ROI for AI initiatives is totally different ballgame. It's not like any other, software or a SaaS solution. So people need to be cautious. People need to figure out what does the TCO look like.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like what I see, it's like if you know what you're doing and you have the solid strategy, you have the skill set, and you have a good vision, you can do really good stuff much faster,
Much
but you
faster.
can do also way more damage way faster. Whereas if previously maybe different departments would make a little chatbot, what's the worst that can happen? Like they scripted it a little bit. But now if you got a few LLMs at different locations saying different things, it's like, yeah, it can get
So,
bad quickly.
Hans, right? I mean, that report is recently out, but it was like always, there's no surprise around it, right? So, beyond these flashy newses of AI, somebody is releasing whatever it is, right? Or somebody is doing something. The organization which is gonna win are following that bamboo tree structure, right? So they might be slow. They are not invisible. They are kind of not visible right now. But many organizations that I know are laying the groundwork so well that building on top of that becomes so accelerated and so fast that the speed is very much fast. The realization of those goals will happen eventually very fast. And I'm talking those organizations started laying the foundation back in 2023 itself.
Yeah.
So they are started reaping the results now. So that's the thing. So either I can build a lot of pilot POCs, which is like off structure, or do not focus too much of a foundation. And again, I have to focus on a foundation after 2 years, which by the time it's too late. All right. Whereas some organization understand by looking into the pattern of multiple technology disruption that okay, where to start, and they are doing the groundwork first, and then they are building on top of that.
Yeah, so you gotta go slow to go fast eventually. That's kind of
Yes.
the main thing. And you might be looking at competitors where it seems like they're just building stuff, but actually behind the scenes, they've done a lot of invisible work already. So that's why you can never look at your neighbors for
I can give you an
inspiration.
example.
Yeah, do
Yeah, I can give
please.
you an example, right? Because majority of AI initiative success depends on how the well the system is integrated, how easily the integrations are available to across the systems. And I know many organizations are building MCPs so fast that they are becoming very mesh oriented. That data and context is available for them from any system they work. And some of them, if they are like an obsolete system, they are replacing those obsolete system to have those information, the context availability across the organization and inter-organization, so that when they have to build any automation, agentic automation, or any reasoning system, that will become very fast for them to. And many organizations which are actually focusing many currently on reasoning, LLMs, agentic AI and all, and not focusing too much upon building MCPs or integration stack. They are going to have to invest that time later when the integration becomes a key problem, right? And without a data, without a context, no agent or no LLMs, no reasoning can actually do anything. So that's the important differentiation.
Yeah, so you gotta be building the brain of the organization almost, and once you have that, then you can apply it much more easily at other places, whereas otherwise, if you built one little skill set for that AI system, it's like, yeah, it's not transferable, it's just an isolated thing. So fundamentals. And are there like if you look at conversational AI, there's some fundamentals if we think about, it's got to be helpful, it's got to be relevant, accessible, those sort of things. Are there fundamentals in conversational AI that are just still fundamentally completely true, or has everything changed, or how do you look at that now of the role of basically what are we building from that perspective? I guess a lot of it's the same still.
So there are two aspects to it, or two dimensions to it. The fundamental that is still intact is the user experience, is the context, is the completeness, or completing the circle of expectation, which means not just giving some random answer, right? Right. It is still holding the principle. It has to be helpful. It has to be relevant. It has to be accessible. All right. So that's the fundamental that's still intact, but the fundamental on the building side of it completely changed, right? So in conversational AI earlier, we used to try to build a scripted based digital assistant, or even let's say intent based digital assistant generation 1, generation 2, where majority of our time and goes into building those intent or crunches entities and training it, right? And still it is not able to match to the user expectations. So we have to control the user expectations that, okay, this digital assistant is supposed to work around this domain and the area. It cannot go beyond that. So that was the pre GenAI area, pre language LLMs area. So now what's the difference here is, now the role has been changed. A conversational designer is just not designing the conversation; is actually architecting the knowledge, right? Architecting the
Mm.
knowledge graph, how it is structured, what it is answering, what is the information gained per answer, right? Just not blabbering some relevant content. And also how we can limit. Earlier the challenge was no increasing the scope of help. Now it is the other way around. How we can
Mm.
make sure that my digital assistant or a conversation agent is controlled within the paradigm that I'm trying to focus, not going beyond that. So a lot of energy goes the other way around now.
I really like nobody's actually said that so in such a simple way where it used to be like how can we get this thing to do more and now it's actually how can we get it to do less.
Yes.
That's such a simple, elegant way of saying that. Yeah, and I mean we talk about that a lot. It's like where you used to design the words coming out of the system. Now you're basically designing the context where the conversation takes place. You now have two entities that you do not control. Like you do not control entirely what the AI says. You do not control how the user speaks, but you can control the variables and the context in which the conversations take place and
Yes.
increase the likelihood of that
100%.
being a good
Yes.
conversation. And then you're still gonna have some margin of error, but there's like we're getting better and better at that. But it's like I think the first wave was like figuring out in call centers, like, can we understand what customers say and then just get them to the right thing? And then it's like, oh wait, actually we can say something back. And now the third wave is actually we design the context of where it takes place. The and I had this little very simple chart or chart not even it's like where in the NLU worlds if you want a triangle you do like three lines they have a triangle and now in
Hmm.
Gen AI if you want a triangle you do three dots. It
Hmm.
creates the 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 framework for the triangle to emerge and that's kind of what
Yes.
you need to do. You set the parameters for the things to emerge rather than actually designing it itself,
Yes.
which
So
I think
area of
makes
the
it.
triangle is gonna be fixed, but the shape of the triangle might differ here. So you gotta
Yeah.
control that. Yeah.
So it's yeah, I also I think the field's getting more and more exciting, and I think the engineers are gonna see much more clear. So because traditionally for engineers, building a chatbot was really boring. Like you don't want to
Mhm.
do that. You got better stuff to do. But now it is very exciting technology. So they're invested in the project. And I think they'll be more welcoming to people that will actually make it work. So it used to be like you got engineers and then you got designers, and they were on opposite ends of the spectrum and they didn't really like each other too much. And I think now they've
It's
converged more
converging.
into
Yes.
yeah, which is really neat. So if you're thinking about any team that's like looking at, I'm gonna buy
Mhm.
technology, I'm gonna interact with some vendors. What should we
Mhm.
be doing? Should we be, because there's a few routes that I see. There's you go with traditional vendors, second generation vendors, and you kind of hope for them to include
Mhm.
these new technologies
Mhm.
or you're gonna go just with APIs and LLMs and build stuff yourself, or you're gonna go with like new types of vendors, sort of new generation full platform solutions that are also out there. What are your options and what should we be thinking about? If I'm now for everybody
Mhm.
listening, we're talking. We're not even talking like a large brand in one country. We're talking
Mhm.
enterprise, global brands, multiple languages, different countries, different rules. We're doing the whole shebang. What should I be
Mhm.
thinking about?
So it's actually interesting question, right? And it's again the answer is no one size fit all, right? So the thing is, again, the question need to be asked for self-evaluation or self, as an organization. And when the organization is asking those questions, that what is the maturity? When I say maturity, it also include the budget, the readiness, and also do they have the right skills, right? Do they have the right people? Even the big organization might have budget constraint around different set of technologies or advancement of the technology. So the questions boil down that uh, am I looking on a short term win, or I want to move the needle? I know that this is going to work. I have done my homework. I have interviewed customers, or take a qualitative or quantitative surveys that this definitely going to work, and I need to make it work on, like, say, in a month or 2 months time, while I can figure out a broader strategy. Buy it could be an option, but may not be a long term option. But versus something that I want to build internally, because I see use cases around it, and scaling very fast. And for example, I'm telling like, say, a organization enterprise which kind of scans millions of documents, like handwritten documents, right? It is an option for them to build an internal computer vision or an OCR ICR engine to get that thing sorted, because they have the skill to build it internally, and that ROI can be realized. So these are the questions that they need to ask. Majority of the organizations fall into hybrid model, where they buy something, co-engineer them, and make it customized for themselves. But even to that journey, they need to deliver certain projects, deliveries, or even key few wins to assess both the technology and the readiness, and the real challenges that we get to, because they have to go beyond shiny demos that normally vendor
Yeah.
gives, right? Because that's always the challenge. And many organizations, while evaluating technology, keeps forgetting two things: that how that particular system can get integrated within the ecosystem. I'll tell you this, example, right? Majority of the organization systems are either working with Microsoft Softs or Google Shops, which means the majority of the people are on the either of the Microsoft Outlook, or Teams or whatnot, or Google, right? And if I'm bringing a new technology, it is actually very difficult to get those technology integrated into those ecosystems without compromising on security or other kind of a
Really.
challenges, because the data is going to be visible to that, and that becomes a bottleneck, right? And then it's a different altogether a challenge, right? So we might have to think those hard, that where my users are actually, what they're using right now, does it require a lot of behavioral change, right? And how difficult the operational and the sustainability part of it is, what is actually my TCO, which means if I'm bringing a technology that requires certain training to few people, which means I'm going to pay a lot of amount of money to the resources who is going to develop and manage. So these are the few things need to be kept in mind. The best practice is, make instead of it becoming an individual decision, let a group of pod, which includes all the from the user, developer, tester, architect, domain architect, principal architect, enterprise architect, and then keep these questions, right? Everybody in the chain need to be feeling comfortable with that particular technology stack, and then go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like if as you're talking, you just hear the complexity around it, which is for and our so when we started CDI, our core belief was basically like everybody's going to be using AI to talk to people at scale, and that's a big deal. So you need to be able to do that yourself. Like first and foremost, you need to have control of that. And for us, it was very much zooming in on the skill sets that people need to have to make those customer centric experiences with empathy that would drive customer behavior in a way that's benefit both the customer and the business. So for us, it was like you're going to use AI to talk to people. That is a big deal, and you need to be in control of that. But that does not necessarily mean for every organization that you need to be an AI company because you can still bring in partners and you can still have vendors. So you don't have to build everything from scratch if that's simply not your DNA. You can still have engagement frameworks with those vendors and with those partners that makes you the person that fully controls how you use AI to talk to people. So I think that's kind of like
Yeah,
misconceptions where because it used to also be like every company's got to be a tech company and this and that. It's like no, if
not
you're in
required.
business if you're in business for 200 years and you're an old school brand, then you don't now all of a sudden have to think that you need to be an AI company, but you will be using AI to talk to people, and you need to figure out how you control that operation.
And for that, what matters is the partner that you're choosing. It's not just about the technology. It's fine, we can compromise on certain features, right? But look at the very basic core principle of the partnership that you're doing with a vendor, right? Are they ready to evolve with you? Are they ready to listen, right? How big
Yeah.
of a customer you are, right? And are they ready to take that feedback and be agile enough to take those, into account and modify things? That is actually the winning formula, right? If we end up with a partner or a vendor which is not flexible to change the product, and it is not fitting enterprise right well, then that relationship doesn't go far. I mean, it's obviously because enterprise cannot change. Like it's a 200-year-old company, like you said, right? It cannot change over a night or over a month.
Yeah.
The company or the organization or the product that it is using, perhaps that can, right? So, and then hence I'm all around that CDI, right? It's very well positioned. It's a very rare and unique offering that you guys are doing around it, right? Because it's easy to find a technology, right? It's very difficult to find customer centricity while delivering those technology and keeping the organization honest. And that's actually one of the adoption driver.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and, it's like so. What we see, it's almost like about incentive alignment, right? And if you say like you've got these big tech companies that just whatever the problem is, their product is the solution, right? And what you end up. So the way we look at this chart, and also leads to our next question, where I want to talk a little bit about success and ROI. But so we always have the chart of basically automation goals, which is on the vertical, and then customer experience goals on the horizontal, and basically automation plus customer experience is value, right? But you see a lot of companies, they start building stuff, and they build and build and build, but and they throw more engineers and more developers and more technology at it, but they're building stuff nobody wants to interact with, and they are ROI basically plummets. So you need to find, and the reason for that is also because of that incentive alignment. Because if you put 20 engineers in a room, what are they going to be doing? They're going to be engineering. It doesn't matter. It's like even if the product's done, they still have a 6-month contract. They're gonna spend 6 more months engineering and building more
100%.
stuff, right? So
Yeah.
you need to balance those engineers with those designers. So you need to bring in the right partners for that, and not to pitch CDI here, but that's often when we are being brought in, when somebody in leadership sees that we've got great tech capability. We've got all these tools. We're building all these cool things. Somehow it's not delivering. And why is that? It's like, yeah, there's no empathy, there's no
It's not.
centricity. So now we got to find that balance again. So that has to do with your ecosystem of vendors and partners. And and as we're kind of going to that thing of like, what does success look like? Because for us, it's like automation, customer experience, and basically those two together give you ROI, right? So how much are you automating? How happy are your customers? And then almost like your cost to serve or your cost per automated chat are always like the three KPIs. But I think for you, as you're launching a new conversational AI product at scale, like what does
Mhm.
success look like then for you? What are you looking for?
No, fantastic question, and I think you partially answered to that already, right? So success is multidimensional, right? Where one dimension is all about the KPIs that you are working on, right? The KPIs about adoption, the KPIs about efficiency, let's say revenue uptake, or let's say conversion uplift. So if I'm putting to customer facing or efficiency gain, which means the hours saved and dollars saved and whatnot, right? So that's one dimension to it. That's not the only dimension to it. The second dimension to it is about the customer usability, right? I mean, are the customers using it and they're happy about it? What's the satisfaction score? Call it right. CSAT score, right? Whether certain somebody is actually going to promote this specific piece to other people or not, or they're going to tell this. Is it actually delivering value? Which means the value it is providing, whether the automation or even the information, that information, if other way around, is actually difficult to get or taking time rather than this is actually delivering value. And the third dimension is about while I'm delivering value, customer is happy and my KPIs is sticking well. Is it perform? Is it operationally viable? I know I'm not setting every day to keep that KPIs running the same level, right? So it has to be sustainable and operationally efficient to manage that expectation, over again and again.
Yeah.
So
I
these
mean,
are the three dimensions that everybody should be looking at.
yeah, because what I like about what a lot of people overlook when they do the ROI, they just look at like, oh, how much are we giving OpenAI, and how many users, and then that's how much it costs. But you got to look at the total cost of ownership of this entire conversational AI project. So then you are dealing with like, oh, systems down, or this is happening, or this is in the infra. All of a sudden, it is way more expensive than you realized when, or when you thought, well, you were just basically on the back of a napkin were making some calculations. So you got to look at the total cost of ownership for these projects, but also, you can look at the cost per automated chat, which is often, a good metric, but you still also need to look at the total cost to serve
And
in this
that's always
just
changing. That's
mm,
always changing because the technology is changing, the cost of people changing, and cost of maintenance changing, cloud is changing. So I keep telling Hans, right? Very few people, and especially the people who has not been exposed to calculating these or working with tech platforms, are difficult to calculate ROI, right? It actually goes with 80% calculation, 20% assumption and intuition that what could be the cost of, right? And we need to factor the effort and the stress that organization needs to go through, the change organization needs to go through this. So if any AI solution that is not even delivering a 2x or 3x ROI, they need to think hard about it, whether to deliver it,
yeah.
because it can easily cost can easily go 1.5x, 2x, even 3x,
Yeah.
without factoring so many things.
Yeah, it's very there's a lot of blind spots in this because you can also imagine, let's say I'm a bank and I put out an AI chatbot on my homepage and I look at those numbers, but actually maybe people reach out and they're disappointed and they end up going to the branch. I actually need to see like the service cost of my entire operation. So people going into the store is actually also part of my cost to serve of these clients. And if I'm not seeing looking at that total picture of total cost to serve, it's basically like, what are we spending on all of this together and how many customers do we have? That's basically the thing. And then looking at the total cost of ownership with all its details and facets, and those numbers are much bigger than you would expect. And they completely shift that ratio of what you're saying, the 3x and the
and and
1x and the
and
2x.
many organizations are following the wrong matrices totally. I've been talking to a few friends, so one of those friends, like, without putting the name, right? Okay, now my customer service assistant takes, let's say, 5 million calls automated way, right? So it doesn't get handed over to a human agent, right? And but those number are getting increased by 10%. So certain organizations, certain people are taking it like a positive sign that my digital assistant is able to take more and more, increasingly, more number of calls automated way. But the actual metric they should be looking at, right? What is the average increment that is happening on the customer coming directly to the agent, right? Or
Mm,
even coming to the support. So they should be looking at uh, you know improving the customer experience or tackling those challenges that customers is facing, so that they don't even have to reach out, whether they're automated agent or even a regular agent, right? That they should
yeah,
not be, right? So the right metrics is that your usage should go down, both
yeah,
for a human or even the agent, right? So you need to
yeah.
track the right metrics.
Yeah, and a lot of times we're solving problems that shouldn't exist in the first place.
That's
We would always have like, we got 100 FAQs on this product. Can we automate those with a chatbot? It's like, no, you got to fix your product. If you got 100 FAQs about one product, we need to
uh,
fix the product. So,
yeah.
when you think about conversation design, which you've also seen evolve now, how if we think about conversation design with LLMs in the mix now, what's your what's changed for you and how you would look at conversation designers that you would fit in your teams and in your operation?
I would say it's now more of a knowledge design and a context design than a
Mm,
conversation design alone. A
yeah,
conversation can be maintained easily through the language model that you are having. Now it's more about looking at some hidden metric, like what is the information gain that I'm getting, via one sentence response from my LLM, or even from the model, or even from the agent that I'm getting. So it's the same right now. The conversation designers are an architect of knowledge, right? The way our perspective should be that if if I'm putting out a one liner or two liner sentence from the customer or in front of the user, what is the information that actually is there in that sentence? Is it loaded with information or just some gibberish or English of diagnostic? Because
yeah,
in the era of generative AI, or the name, right, the generative AI, there's a lot of cognitive load on information overload that is happening, and the
yeah,
brand which can actually distinguish themselves from that, is the winner, is going to be the winner. Like, the more content, less words is the key.
yeah. So they're kind of like the basic fundamentals of it's still like what is a good conversation that you could be having with your customer, and that's the state. That's the same. It's just a different way of getting there now. And with this technology, we can get more examples and more use cases. We're thinking of like, or thinking of, we're soon going to launch actually agentic experience design. So that's a lot of emphasis on building on right models, doing the content structuring rather. So we have partners that we work with that, and it's like, how do you structure all your databases in such a way that an LLM is much more efficient in getting the right information properly, and then how do you tune it in such a way? So it's kind of like so conversation design is still the thing of like how do you want the system to talk, but then there's the whole agentic experience design of how does this machine work in the background to get to the
So
point where those words
yeah,
can come out properly.
so the North Star is, in the pre-era is like, we had a limitation on doing automation, and, we had to put in FAQs and a lot of information out there for a user to self-navigate themselves. That era is gone because, uh, understand this, while we are putting out there some chatbot or digital assistant, some user has already gone through multiple chatbots in a day,
Mm.
multiple chat GPTs and all. User is already loaded with information, right? So the person does not need more information. The person needs getting the work done, right? So the more automation, less talking is the key going forward.
Yeah, if you have proper automation, there's less room for conversation. And I would take the position that if you that it you would actually create space for conversations that contribute to the relationship rather than the problem. So the problem is easier to deal with, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a conversation. It means that you can add brand value and look at a lifetime value of a customer and basically create room for positive things rather than just dealing with
Yep,
problems.
100%.
And do you feel like if you think about, you talked about this a little bit already, like the engineers versus designers? Do you feel with this transition now that those two worlds converge better? Also, from this point of view, it's like engineers we automate so that you designers can add value that they understand each other's roles better.
I tell you one thing, right? Give it like a year or two. Both the role is gonna converge. So there won't be an engineer, there won't be a designer. There will be
Mm.
something, they want to call it, because coming with this,
Agentic experience designer, agentic experience. Trust me, man.
so basically, because coming with this vibe coding automated platforms, right? I do need an engineer. You actually do need a lot of architects, and at the same time designer, but those 2% doesn't need to be two different people, and the challenge is going to be if those two people are different people bringing their biases from multiple layers of their experience, then it's becoming difficult, right? So everybody has to be open minded and converts that what is the value that we are delivering and how we can deliver it in efficient.
Do you think that's gonna work at scale? Because we would see it in NLU worlds, we would have, if it's a small team, you would have, AI training and design, and it would basically be the same person doing both, right? And training the intents and writing the words. But we would always see when teams got bigger that you would actually get specialized AI trainers and specialized level two designers. So I can kind of see that now at the beginning that yeah, you're building agentic systems, you're building AI, it's really cool, you're thinking about all of it, but once you start building it and you have a team of 100, you're gonna have the specializations within their entire
100%.
stack.
So it's
Yeah.
always a hub and spoke model now, and it's because, there has to be a specialization at the core, but at the same time, the team need to be structured more distributed way, right? So you have, a specialist architect, at the center, who is kind of
Yeah.
laying the foundation, giving the enough flexibility for use cases to vary, while at the same time controlling the ground, controlling the governance framework, conversation, tonality, personality, and so on, different layers of it, right? But at the same time, there is a creative freedom at the distributed team that is being given, and the same team is the conversation designer team and the
Yeah.
technical team to play around it. So there is enough room for creativity, but at the same time, the risk is minimum.
Yeah. I think it's the maybe it's like this year, you're gonna have those different specializations and different roles, but rather than bringing in people from different backgrounds and then giving them those specialized roles, they all got to start at the same shared center and then evolve into the specialization. So they share the common language. Because what you see a lot of times is like, oh, you'll bring in a linguist, you bring in a UX designer, you bring all in these different people, and they all have adjacent expertise. So what they do is they all circle around the problem doing the thing they're good at, but nobody's actually working on the actual problem. They're all kind it's you're like they create like a little circle around conversational AI because nobody knows how to really do it. So you need to get people, and this, and I guess it's now because this field is so exciting that people want to start at the center and do everything, and then they'll find a specialization. So rather than having a circle around a problem, they'll emerge from that circle into a wide spectrum of skill sets.
And that's a role that a product leader actually be playing, be it the product owner, product manager, senior product manager, because the person is actually cross functional, right? The person understand UX, tech, understand stakeholders, what problem they're solving, and actually uh, are responsible or accountable for the results that need to be driven. So those are the exact gap or the bridge that need to be filled by product owner.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. And then so let's go to sort of the last section of today. We're gonna talk a little bit beyond the buzzwords and the experiments and the maturity and risk. So you've experimented at scale at enterprises where probably a lot of people would learn what kind of experiments you get to do. They're like, oh, really? Is that possible? So what are you looking for beyond just feasibility? Let's talk about some of those other things.
So see, in next, I would say not even a year now, right? Industrialization of agentic AI is going to be crucial, and uh, apart from that, which actually no very few people are actually focusing is you know building a parallel capability of responsible and secure AI. Right now, people are running behind shiny, comets of the world, automated browsers, and all. Very few people talk about the security, right? And it is gonna hit hard because, okay, we did the POC. Now let's talk about real, production grade use case. Production grade use case gonna talk about security, privacy, concerns. That's not the time that we build this governance layer. That's the time that already a mature governance layer that actually matured over a period of time. And while we're talking about and where technology already is playing the key role. So what I look at in industrialization of actual AI, where these pillars come hand in hand and be ready, right? Instead of lagging, a certain pillar is lagging and same pillar is leading. Right now, the technology pillar is leading, and governance and maturity or even the responsible or the security AI pillar is kind of lagging. So that need to catch up.
As you talk about how do you build AI for sort of from going to a lot of people are building pilots and projects, and it's all surface level, and you need to go much deeper with the capability that you're building. And I think because a lot of people are talking about AI ethics and governance, but it's almost as a similar thing there as well. It's all a little surface level. Oh, are we making sure that it is but it's like, no, this is like a separate thing and structure that needs to be built at the same core level of the organization as well. So
It's the
that
same
takes just
playbook.
yeah.
It's the same playbook, right? So right now, if you look at it, the AI is at the hype curve, it's at the top, right? That's what I'm talking about. Give it a year, it is gonna get into the trenches of concern and complexity and confusion, right? Because people need to pay attention on groundwork, and eventually it will gonna mature, but require a lot of rework to be done.
Yeah. Do you think so? A lot of people. Do you think a lot of people are skipping some of these steps right now, and are they going to get in trouble for it? Like, it's like, what's the? Is it going to backfire, or is it just going to slow them down a little bit?
I think people are smart enough to before they go to production scale, they're gonna ask this question. It's just they are spending time on pilots. They should be spending time on building the groundwork, and majority of the companies are working on those. So it's not like nobody. Uh, so it is not a backfire. It's not going to backfire to them. Maybe some of them, but it is like might need to rework on majority of their strategy again to get to that maturity level.
Yeah, I guess when you operate at a certain level, it's not should you do this or that. The answer is almost always you should be doing both. Like you
Both.
need to invest in the
And that's a
infrastructure.
advice. While you're experimenting, don't experiment with an expectation of ROI or thing. Set the expectation of learning. That's a difference that AI is gonna work, right? Uh, like any other technology, can we wait and watch? Absolutely not. We should be doing things. Can we start thinking after 2 years, after watching everybody what is successful or not? Absolutely not, because that every organization is going to lose the opportunity to learn about themselves and how to improve themselves to be ready for AI. So they need to remain invested, but at the same time, don't expect ROI too early, right? It is a learning curve. They need to be invested. It's just how well they position themselves. What are the wins that they are running behind, right? Instead of doing very risky wins, they can easily optimize their internal facing digital assistant, internal facing agents, or even customer facing is fine, but as long as they know what they're doing, so they need to know what.
Yeah, so that's kinda like the intrinsic thing of the discipline and the culture that you're building. Now and then, yeah, if you're looking at usage, kind of, if we think, we're doing everything right, we're building all these great things, how do I, wanna get adoption for the products? What has if you look at the numbers of, like, millions of customers talking to these systems, like, what is it from your experience, what has it taken to get to that volume? Because there's always that trade-off. It's like you can do everything right, 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 and it slows down, and then you got something beautiful, uh, but nobody's still not talking to it. So why not
So it's
go
not
fast?
actually a complex to be honest, right? And I know many organizations do not even get at some point of time, but it's not actually for any technology piece, for that matter, any product that I'm launching, right? It total boils down to three things, right? The value that I'm providing to my customer. Number one, right? Helpfulness. Is it something really helpful to the customer, or even worth changing the behavior, or I'm not changing the behavior of the customer at all? For example, if I'm seeking certain information, I have to go to the digital assistant and see that information through FAQ, tapping the long answer and get that information. Or I can just ask my colleague, I can get that information really fast. So I have to be asking that what exactly I'm building. Is it something really going to be valuable? Hence, the foundation work of interviewing the end user is important. Taking the qualitative, user research or even quantitative user research is important. That would tell you whether something is worth building or not. Without that, even we should not be expecting adoption, right? Because we don't know what are we will be accepted. Number two, is it relevant or is it accurate, right? Which means, okay, I got, everybody wants certain piece of product, AI assistant or, AI, any solution. But is it relevant to the problem that I'm actually focusing? Sometimes what happens when I start building, we lose the track of relevancy and accuracy that, it is blabbering something, but it is not relevant, right? So it has to be relevant. And the last and important piece is the accessibility. Any piece of technology, if I have to go through 5, 10 clicks to reach to that to get some answer to get something done, is not going to see the adoption at all. It's the world where technology need to meet the user wherever they are. If the user is in Outlook or any email or chats, technology need to reach there. That is what actually shifted my perspective and made we have done a lot of mistakes in the past, and actually that has helped us learn a lot of things, and that is what changed it. Accessibility is the key.
Yeah. Kind of what we talked about earlier as well. It's like sometimes we're solving problems that shouldn't exist, and sometimes we're looking for places for where we're going to meet the customers in the journey where they are, and this is perfect because they're on this channel and they're doing these things. But actually, if you would rethink this entire product or this entire journey, you might be dealing with a completely different
Totally.
ball game. But it's like how far back can you go, right? That's always like a difficult thing because you can't have for the current context have a mega use case, but you could have a very different context if you would go one step deeper and rethink that. But then you're dealing also with so many different stakeholders that you cannot influence because you're just the AI guy, right? That's
No, so the
when
biggest stakeholder is your customer or the user. I mean, that is important for everybody to understand, because their user's perception or a customer perception is reality. Never expect the user to change their behavior, and you would be seeing very quickly that bottom right side chatbots are going to be vanished, and that intelligence or conversational intelligence will be organic across a customer journey on a website or on
Yeah. So for you, what are some of the patterns you now look for when you want to build something next? Like what are you going to build next? What's So you're looking at customers. What are the pain points? Where do they suck? Where can we add value? What's the where are
So
you looking in general?
So I actually look at it this perspective, and it's more of like intuition. I mean, from over a decade of experience, uh, customers are not liking the information overload they are getting. They are getting a lot of rubbish whenever they search on the Google or Googles of the world, or search engine. They get a lot of information. Information overload is the challenge, right? And
Big.
how any automation or any technology or any human-centric design is going to cut through that and differentiate themselves with this is something that I'm going to focus more on, right? Be it an automation engine, right? Where I'm getting my task done, and that automation engine is context aware. What would I need? When would I need? And that's very robust in nature. Is something where I don't need to deal with a whole lot of information overload. Is something that I'll be focusing more on.
Yeah. So you're kind of, it's almost like less is more, right? Remove all the friction, remove all the, so it's almost the, are you going to win customers over with AI? No, because you're creating almost a situation in which it doesn't exist, right? It's so seamless. You don't
Yes.
even, but then the other stuff needs to be also very, you're basically creating room for the brand or the products to shine more, but like you, that requires you to have great products. Because now, because you could also say, I'm going to have a great, so you can have a great customer experience that's so good that people don't even notice or experience it. But then they don't think like, "Oh, I just had such a seamless experience," because you don't, so you need to have something in there, so it either comes from AI by making it a little more explicit, or it comes from the brand itself, but you need to be aware of
And
that
that's a
in a way,
maturity
so
stage, when people stop talking about AI, like it's it's a magic wand. It's like the basic wherever they find an opportunity to make a system intelligent or system automated, they by default it comes into the fabric instead of a separate piece of code or separate piece of technology working with another piece of the technology. That's not sustainable.
yeah. So if you're thinking about this, like let's say I'm a mid-sized company and I call you up, I'm gonna be like, you got 2 minutes and you gotta tell me what I should be doing and what I should be considering when I built my first AI assistant. What would be the main thing for like I'm new to this? How do I cut
Mm-hmm.
through the noise? What would you tell me in a
Yeah.
quick pitch?
So I
Because
would
there's
say, no, again, do the evaluation that okay, what are the 20, no, what are the 80% of your problem can get solved by 20% of the solution, right? So basically, 80
yeah.
depends or 20 depends. But I would say if it is a medium-sized company, understand the risk appetite, start something internal first for the lenses of learning instead of ROI. But there will be ROI, right? Start with the basic digital assistants, automated one for HR, ITs, and the finance group within the company. They're definitely going to build a lot of automation, a lot of efficiency, but at the same time, they're gonna mature the organization from a technology stack, from operational performance, and get the organization ready for the bigger stuff. Put something out in front of the customer because then they will be dealing with customer experience more, equipped than actually handling day to day operational challenges. So I would say start with internal, assess the risk and deliver, iterate few times until you get the operations right, and the technology right. Then you have everything to go on a full scale in front of the customer because at that time you can focus on customer experience without worrying about a lot many other things.
Yeah, and then you would have a good customer experience, like one good operation. Then, if you want to scale more, you go into your hub and spoke model, where you might go to. And I guess we touched on hub and spoke a little bit, but maybe for people that aren't too familiar with it, what is it? Can you maybe a
So
quick?
hub and spoke model is like, you have a central team, or let's say call it a center of enablement, right? Where they more focus on evaluating technology, bringing the right pieces in more abstracted way, where not the entire organization need to be impacted, with that, right? So they keep upgrading the technology or a platform, you can call it. While at the same time, the spoke version, right, where there are small distributed teams, cross-functional teams working on varieties of problems which are customer facing or non-customer facing, or which are more closer to the business problem, and they understand both the technology that you're delivering as part of the core hub and the spoke how they can leverage this. So that's the way that we can go
Yeah.
faster at the same time keeping things robust in the center.
Yeah, and it helps with your costs too. So you're basically building one big expertise with that sits with all the models and all the technologies, and where you have your smartest and best people, and then maybe I've got like a local brand in a smaller market. They just have a few people that work on that big platform to build their own customer experience or even internal thing. So it's faster, it's efficient, keeps the cost low. So if you're done thinking about like some of the skill sets and the roles that you would need now that are maybe often underestimated as well. So, like, what would you say are like the maybe 3 key roles that we should be looking for if we're really
Yeah,
doing
I
this
mean,
at scale?
everybody is aware of the key roles like data science, AI engineer, or LLM engineer, known as generative engineer, architects, and all. These are like mainstream skills. They're important, but there are certain skills that organization need to also be thinking about. ML ops, LLM ops, right? Because models is changing. If you are not able to operationalize the model, we can't, right? Bigger companies keep changing their model versions, right? And if that model version changes, you cannot anticipate the outcome, right, which that you built and tested earlier. So there has to be a robust pipeline of LLM ops, to make sure that the change management is and operation is efficient and seamless. At the same time, a very important role about conversation or even AI designers, right, who more like bring both expertise around a bit of technology and bit of customer centricity is very crucial role, which I feel mostly overlooked in organization. These roles kind of being played in partial by, let's say, UX designer and all, but
You
doesn't
gotta
cut
come
it.
to CDI. You gotta come to CDI for that one. Yeah. That's why we usually get the phone call. Yeah, and we've been talking for over an hour, and I know we have a hard stop in a little bit, so I want to go to and we there's a lot of stuff that we have prepared that we did not cover. I was skipping over a few things, so I think we're gonna have our round two at one point. So we're just gonna end with some closing questions that we like to ask here at CDI. Um, so what's in this past you know paradigm shift or that we're in the middle of? What's the belief about conversational AI that you maybe had to change recently?
It's my favorite one though. So many people take conversational AI is like a chatbot or a FAQ assistant and all, but what actually it's actually a UX revolution, right? The paradigm shift here I'm talking about. We came from a system where we throw everything to the user, right? Here is my website, and there are
Mm.
no five different navigation and 10 option under each navigation. Like you go and choose what you want. So it's like informational overload. And think about people right now which are living into the era of information and making important decisions. By the time that they need to make certain important decision, they lost the track. So the cognitive overload is important. How things are changing in the conversational layer, the paradigm shift, right? Where user is at the control, right? They ask what they need. They don't be. They are not. They haven't cut across a lot of content, right? Okay, they cut across a lot of content that they have to go through the website, content, and so on. Right now, I can focus what exactly I need and I get it done without going through too much of information on multiple websites.
Yeah,
That is the paradigm. So I feel it's a UX revolution than less than more than a technology revolution. And let's see, because UX or UI real estate is shrinking. Like you can have so much of content in one website or anywhere. You cannot have
yeah.
more than that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So everything up to now was actually a substitute for what we're getting now. It's like all these pages and all these websites, they're all actually just decision trees because we didn't have any agency. We didn't
Yes.
know. And now all of a sudden we can know what people need and we can make it happen. So everything that we spent years creating guidelines for of UX design of websites and all of that is kind of it was all a placeholder for what's happening now.
Yes.
And then final question. If you're looking at, what are you going to be doing the next 6 months strategically instead of just building? Like, what's the main thing strategically that you're focused on? 6 months sounds like a long time in AI. That's a 4 year plan that people used to
Uh,
have.
yeah,
Will,
yeah,
will
that
we
is what
have
I was
will
all.
we have flying robots in 6 months? I don't know.
Maybe, and the testings are going on, so definitely why not? So, about 6 months is a quite a long time. I would really definitely say a lot of things are changing, but the things that would not change is the principles that that I was talking about. Agentic AI is going to be industrialized. That's where I'm going to focus, but along with the pillar of security, governance, and responsible AI, not standalone, not the pilots, but actually the industrialization of it. The focus will be more on cross organization agentic AI, which means it can cut across one domain or one partner or one company and can communicate. So it's think of like a mesh of agents working together and talking, having agent to agent communication. And it's my new hobby, or actually not a new. I mean, I've been following it from some time. Actually, I've been following quantum computing around it, and I want
Mm.
to see it evolving so fast so that I can mix both of AI and quantums of the world and try to solve some really challenging
So
problems
with
that are still.
well, with quants, like how like I never know if we're looking at, is that 6 months or 6 years or
I
like,
don't
well,
think it's gonna be 6 years because the recent advancement that has happened and actually about to happen is going to be so fast, right? So it might not be 6 months, maybe a year or more,
but it
but
is like it's
it is,
definitely
it is
yeah.
definitely because the investment that is being made into this, the growth that has been done, be it Google, or Microsoft's, bringing their own, technology, the way they handle quantum, and it is getting efficient. They don't need that super cooling temperature to operate around it. So these are the practical limitations. These were the practical limitation actually that you were dealing with. Now those practical limitations are getting shrinking day by day, and the way that we are moving, the speed that we are moving, I feel it's we are very close. Where both AI and quantum converges together, and we
That's
realize super AI or AGI as we call it.
yeah, that's because those two together, that's what maybe a lot of people, I mean, in the AI world, people are aware of that, but I think a lot of people maybe at enterprises building conversational AI systems are not necessarily aware yet of what those two things mean together. They're not, I'm sure there's people in every organization that's focused on quant, but people just building out, chatbots and
And
stuff
then
might not truly
then
be
it's
aware of
less
that.
of a conversation. It's more of intuition AI then because
Yeah.
the way the quantum functions, right? It is gonna be that way. So hoping to see that day soon now because the only thing that is keeping AGI right now far away is that computational power, the power demand, and obviously the evolution of the AI field. But with quantum coming into picture, it's definitely going to be super.
Yeah. It's great to have you, man. I feel we need a round two, or you should drop some more knowledge when we have. Maybe we can do like a little course together, some modules, and people can learn more from you. Thank you
And I'm
so
happy
much
to
for
hands.
yeah. Thank you for checking it out. If people
Thank.
want to reach out to you, should I just find you on LinkedIn or what should I do?
I'm just a message away on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
All
much
right,
there.
all right, you type in
But
DJ and
fantastic
then
talking to you, Hans. Really appreciate well thought questions. Very few people asking those, but really appreciate the groundwork that you and team has done. And thanks, Michelle, for bringing us together.
thank you so much. And thank you everybody for listening to this episode of Unprompted. Check us out, follow us. There's about, we got more than 15,000 students right now who are all listening to these episodes and are learning about this stuff. And we're making everybody ready for human centric AI in this new revolution of, quants, LLMs. What's happening? We don't know, but we're going to be part of it.
Mm,
So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for your trust in us and have a great day and see you in the next episode.
thanks, everyone.